Hello Crochet Crafter. Today we're going to be making a sheep and I'm using the Sugar and Cream 100% cotton. Be sure whatever yarn you use, it's 100% cotton, because for pot holders, if you have anything less than that, it will show burn marks, and if you plan on using it as a trivet and putting hot pots on it, it will end up looking like a brown hot mess. And since we're using white as well, 100% cotton white Sugar and Cream, you will also need to make sure that that's 100% cotton. I'm also using for the eyes and different things some of this embroidery yarn, and if you look at the embroidery yarn on here, it also says 100% cotton, and you want to make sure that whatever yarn you use for the eyes, nose, and that type of thing, embellishments for any of your pot holders, that you use cotton. Now the reason I buy this, because you can go to the section in the craft store and you can buy just small portions of like blue for the eyes or brown for the eyes or whatever color you want to use, and you can pick this up for like 99 cents sometimes, and if they have them on sale, sometimes they're 2 for $1. So that's a lot better value than having to buy a whole thing of yarn just to do the eyes. Or you can use scraps if you have projects and you tend to be a crocheter. You can use scraps for whatever. Okay, so we're going to use a size 4 or E crochet hook. Bear in mind, if you're using a larger crochet hook or a smaller one, the pot holder is going to be smaller or larger depending on what you use. And that's fine if you want to use a larger one, no problem. I'm using a plastic needle. Most of you know, if you've looked at any of my other projects, that I like plastic needles because I don't want to be poked, but also if you're constantly using them, they tend to cause sores, the metal ones do. So I've switched over to plastic. The other thing you need is a pair of scissors, and if you like stitch markers, then you can by all means have some stitch markers as well. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with my black. And what you want to do is get your yarn onto your crochet hook, however you want to do that. And if you are familiar with using a magic circle and you would like to do that, you can. I'm going to do a chain 2 method. So what you're going to do is you're going to chain 1, pull it through, and chain 2. And that's called a chain 2 method. Now in this first chain that you made, you're going to go back through and you're going to put 6 single crochets. 1, 2. Now this is your tail. If you know how and you're experienced and you want to work your tail back into your work, I encourage you to do that. That's 3. If you are not experienced with working the tail back in, you can either sew it or you can cut it when we get done. I just worked mine back in. Those are 6 stitches. Count and make sure you've done 6. And I have a little bit of my tail back here, but I won't worry about that right now. I can cut that off later. Since we're making a pot holder, the rule of thumb is you want the back of the pot holder to look as nice as the front of the pot holder. And, you know, if someone's displaying it, hanging it, you still want it to look as nice. So when you get back around, you have 6, you should have 6 back and front loops. In the first one that you created, right there, you want to go ahead and put 2 single crochets. Make sure you pick up the back and the front loop. And I'm having a little bit of, it might be tight. That's why a lot of people like to do a magic circle, but I prefer a chain 2 method. And if you're using a larger crochet hook, you're probably having an easier time, but you're going to put 2 single crochets all the way around in those 6 stitches. So that's my first stitch. I did 2 singles. My second stitch. And remembering, when you're finished with this, you should have 12 stitches. So if you count back and front, you're taking the back and front loop. Make sure you're always taking the back and the front loop. And you should have, if you're ahead of me, that's okay too. Now my tail, see there's my tail. It didn't quite work all the way in, but that's okay because I might be able to get it in the second round. So you should be working that 2 stitches. And if you need a place marker too, and you can't, I always just count as I'm going, and when I do the 2 stitches, I count it 1 and 1, 2 and 2, and so forth. But if you need to use a place marker, I suggest going ahead and doing that until you get back around. And once you've got back around, you can either work in the round on this, working in the round, just continuing, or sometimes on my second round, I do a slip stitch, and that kind of gets me back around. So when you get to the end, if you want to slip stitch and then count your stitches and make sure you have 12. And I'm a bugaboo about making sure that my project doesn't have a lot of straggly ends while I'm working. Now, if you find it easier to just cut off all the stragglies afterwards or sew them back in, but I work that tail in, and I just took the rest of that little piece off so I'm not disturbed by it when I'm creating my work. Okay, so we've done that, and that's going to be the start. Working in the round is going to be the start of our sheep. So the next one that we're going to do is we're going to go in to our front and back loop, and we're just going to do a single crochet. And in the next one, we're going to do 2 singles in the same stitch. And we're going to do that all, so we're going to do a single in the next one, and then 2 singles in the next one, and then a single in the next one, and then 2 singles. So on your 12 stitches all the way around, you're going to be doing a single and then 2 singles in the next stitch. And when you meet me, you should have 18 stitches when you get back around. And again, if you need a place marker, go ahead and pull that place marker out. Stitch marker is what they call it technically, but I call it a place marker. Same thing. Whatever you need in order to get this project accomplished. And you know, you saw me, sometimes the stitches are tight, depending on how you're manipulating the yarn. And if you're brand new, you can see it does take a little bit of time to manipulate the yarn. It's not an exact science, and everybody's going to have a different skill set for doing that. Okay, so I'm actually back around here shortly, and when you've finished up with that and you can meet me, you should have 18 stitches all the way around. I think I did one more stitch. Yeah. And then what we're going to do is we're going to keep going, and we're going to do a single. So I bet you can guess what the next round is going to be: a single and 2 doubles. Not 2 doubles, I'm sorry, 2 singles in the same one. When I say a single, sorry. So it's a single, and 2 singles in the next stitch. So that's 1. So this is 2 and 1, a single. 2 and 2 is a single. 2 and 3, a single, and then a 2 and 4 is in the same one. 3 and 1 is a single. 3 and 2 is a single. 3 and 3, and 3 and 4 are going into the same stitch. And there was 6 when we began, so that's how I count it. And then it's 4 and 1, a single. 4 and 2 is another single. 4 and 3 and 4 and 4 are single in the same stitch. Now I'm going to be doing 5 and 1, 5 and 2, and then 5 and 3 and 5 and 4 go in the same stitch. and 6 and 1 is a single in the next stitch, 6 and 2 is a single in the next stitch, 6 and 3, and 6 and 4 in the next stitch. So we're doing 6 because the methodology for that is that we started out with 6 in the round, and so we're counting as we expand our flat potholder here. We're always adding another single stitch, and then the last 2 will always be in the same stitch. So we did 1 and 1, 1 and 2, and then 1 and 3 and 4 in the same stitch. So now we're going to do 3 singles and 2 singles in the last stitch. So we're going to do a single, another single, and then 2 in the same stitch. And 2, 1 is a single, 2, 2 is a single in the next stitch, 2, 3 is a single in the next stitch, 2, 4, and 2, 5. And then we're going to be doing a single. So it's 3, 1, a single, 3, 2, a single, 3, 3, and then 2, 3, 4, and 3, 5 in the same stitch. 4, 1 is a single, 4, 2 is a single in the next stitch, 4, 3 is a single in the next stitch, 4, 4, and 4, 5. And then 5, 1 is a single in the next stitch, 5, 2 is a single in the next stitch, 5, 3 is a single in the next stitch, 5, 4, and 5, 5. 6, 1 is a single in the same stitch, in the next stitch. 6, 2 is a single in the next stitch. 6, 3 is a single in the next stitch. 6, 4, and 6, 5 are in the same stitch. So now that's our 6th round. And we're going to do one more round, and then we're going to start on our ears. So we're counting now, we're adding again, so it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5 and 6 go in the same stitch. And if you forget where you're at with the counting, you can always go back and look at the round and count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out. So now you're on the 6th round. Again, if you want to put a place marker here and work it that way, so you work all the way around to the place marker, and that's easier for you, I encourage you to do that. So we're doing 1 single, a 2nd single, a 3rd single, a 4th single, and then 5 and 6 go what? In the same stitch. This is all single stitches amigurumi style. So we're starting on 2, 1 goes a single stitch in the next one, 2, 2 is in the next one, 2, 3 is in the next one, 2, 4 is in the next one, 2, 5, and 2, 6 go in the same stitch. 3, 1 is the next stitch, 3, 2, next stitch, 3, 3, next stitch, 3, 4, next stitch, 3, 5, and 3, 6 go in the next stitch. 4, 1 goes 4, 2 in the next stitch, 4, 3 in the next stitch, 4, 4 in the next stitch, and 4, 5, and 4, 6 go in the next stitch together. 5, 1 is a single in the next, 5, 2 is a single in the next, 5, 3, a single in the next, 5, 4, and 5, 5, and 5, 6 go in the same stitch. 6, 1, 6, 2, 6, 3, 6, 4, 6, 5, and 6, 6. Go in the next stitch. So you've either done a place marker or you've done the counting like I have, and this is where we're at. So this is basically the sheep's face. And what I'd like to have you do now is just go ahead and slip stitch. Chain 1. So slip stitch and chain 1 and turn your work. And what we're going to do now is we're working from the back of the project. Your back should look really nice. It's not going to look exactly like the front, but it should look nice and clean and put together. But we're working from the back, doing singles all the way around. And we're just doing a single in the entire project now. And I'll show you in a minute why we do this single all the way around. If you look from the front, it gives you that nice finished edge, so we can work the ears off of that edge. So if you want to just meet me back, you can turn me off or leave me on if you want to go ahead and work with me. But again, it's just going to be a single stitch working from the back of your project. If you're working from the front, then that is the wrong way to do it, and it's not going to look, I mean, it's not wrong if you like it to look that way, but this is a particular way. Working from the back gives it that edge that I'm looking for to add the ears to. Birds are chirping outside today. I'm not sure if you can hear that, but there's a lot of birds here. And I'll show you what we need to do when we finish up this last one on the face. So this is the little sheep's face on the pot holder. And it's going to come out really cute by the time we're done. Now this is it's probably going to end up being a 4-part series. So when you've gotten to the end, your project will have this nice little border that's going to be relevant for adding the ears on later on, and then we're going to be adding some of the top of the white and the sheep's hair right here. So when you've gotten back around, you want to come up to this loop right here, the front and back loop here, and pull in and slip stitch. And once you've slip stitched, you're going to leave a little bit. You're going to cut it off. And you're going to work, this is going to be part 1, and then we'll work on the sheep's fur. So you can work this back in. Just remember, when you're working a stitch back in, the way you want to make sure that you work it is you work it 3 different ways. So because you're going to want to put these through the wash, and you can put this through the wash if you dry it flat. If you dry it and then put it in the dryer, because it's cotton, it may shrink up. So when you wash it, just wash it flat and wash it and then just hang it out flat. hang it out flat. I mean, just lay it out flat. But again, if you don't work this different ways, and what I mean by that is putting the thread in different ways, then your pot holder will come all undone, or pieces of it will. And I've seen over time, people have kept things a long time, and after a while the yarn starts to degrade and it comes apart. Okay, so I still have like a little bump there, but that's okay, because what's going to happen is when I cut this off and I start on the next series 2, it's going to be okay. So yours should look something like that. If it doesn't, just go ahead and start over. I'll see you for part 2. Thanks a lot.